Welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, where two faculty members explore how technology supports academic life. I'm Marty Gensius from Kent State University, associate professor here, and kind of a technology geek.
Yeah, technology geek, same. And I am program director and associate faculty at Divine Mercy University.
So, Eric, a little bit of catch up. What have you been up to lately? Anything surprising or new or tech kind of focused?
A little. I've been fishing, so less tech, kind of a tech break. I did find out that T-Mobile works well on the lake in Ontario for the first time in years. And I got to tinker around. My cousin was taking some video. He's on the boat with us, using his meta glasses.
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
Yeah, and it takes some pretty good images. Took some pretty good video. Just some short clips and stuff. I actually got a picture of my son using the glasses, holding up a 3-pound bass he caught with a Spider-Man fishing pole, one of those real little. We got it for him as a joke.
Yeah.
And he said, "You watch, I'm going to catch a big old fish on it," and he did.
So it was like a pocket. It was a Spider-Man pocket fisherman. Is that
right? Like the old Zebco kind of little reels.
Right. Yeah. We can talk about this offline, but there was a famous counselor educator who was very, very short that we referred to as the pocket counselor. And for those who are counselor educators, you can just imagine. We will just have to figure that one out. For those who aren't, sorry about the distraction. But we just referred to, it was one of my students actually who came up with the term pocket counselor. They're so cute. They're a pocket counselor, a Zebco, made by Zebco. So I have MacStock coming up next week, which is a big thing that happens. It's about 120 people maybe, so it's a small enough conference that you get to have lunch with everybody through the weekend, and you get to make connections. I'm presenting on troubleshooting, and I will be doing a workshop in the evening, so it's a tough audience. But it was moved to the evening with the idea that this could be kind of a fun social aspect. So I'm coming up with topic groups based on what their issues are or what they'd like to learn more about. So there might be something on home automation, for example. There might be something on what we're talking about today, which is workflow and getting workflow going. So those groups will run, and then I'm using an open space technology process where people can move. Everybody has to be in a group, and people can move from group to group. So I'm applying my group skills. So I should be concerned about this and really be preparing for the conference. And I know I'll get nervous and prepare over the next weekend. But, it's like walking in and teaching a class to me. It's not something I get super crazy about, and you kind of work in the moment and make things happen. And so it's an experiment, but it kind of goes back to the old user group process where people met on Saturday mornings and brought their problems, and then the group as a whole tried to solve them. So I'm going to try and do that with 120 people or 100 people or so, and we'll see how well that works. I promise them no karaoke, so we should be okay. That's coming up. That's coming up next week, and I'm looking forward to that and trying to get my nerd vibe on for 4 or 5 days while we're there. So, academic, I'm closing out a couple of classes in the next week. I've already closed out one this week, so I'm looking for that July to August cruise. Come to think of it, I've got some writing I promised at the end of July, so I'll be squeezing that stuff out. The topic for today is email to workflow. And this has plagued me forever. I am not a Outlook lover, but our university has kind of said this is how email you'll get it. There's your address. This is how you're going to work with it. And I don't want to, in some ways, I don't want to mix my personal email with my work email. We had a colleague that passed on, and I had to go through his emails, and he was using his work email for a lot of his personal emails in terms of contracting and other stuff like that. So it was very weird to do that. So I try to separate both of those. The problem is my workflow often includes both. So, and we'll get into the issues I have when we talk about it later on, but I want to give you some ideas and show our listeners or viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, some of the links that we will have embedded in the show notes. So you can go to these links, whether you're listening or viewing this, and get a little background on each of them. So there's a lot of things we do with email: student advising, extensions, letter of recommendations, and having to get requests for letter of recommendations. Committee and dissertation correspondence is another thing. Emails from chairs and deans, reoccurring requests can easily be templated if you know how to do that, and then retyped as you need it. So I've got a few things here I will show those who are viewing, and I'll talk through this. This comes from Louisiana State University, and it is a link from their help desk that is a faculty guide in managing Outlook mail effectively. And there's lots of good information on this that is most likely still very relevant. Then how to set up rules in Apple Mail to organize the emails efficiently with them. It comes from Mac Uncle, the website Mac Uncle. And then 10 essential Outlook rules to amplify your productivity. Again, a good article here with all sorts of things that you can do. Flag emails from important senders, highlight emails with specific keywords. This comes from exclaimer.com. It's 10 essential Outlook rules to amplify your productivity. And then we get into shortcuts, which I think are, from a Mac standpoint, I don't know if there's a PC equivalent of these, but shortcuts are simple, small programs that you run that will take actions for you when you initiate the shortcut. And there's a whole section here for iOS for your phones, and you can pull down the menu and go to other iOS versions. But it's a shortcut user guide, communication triggers and shortcuts on the iPhone or the iPad. Then Mail User Group, this one for macOS Tahoe 26, which is the latest release, how to automate tasks in Mail on the Mac. So those can do using script editor, using an automator, or using shortcuts. And then Zapier, which is a product that I am going to try in my Sisyphean search for a solution to workflow, and some 6 Gmail automation ideas that you can do with Zapier. And then Connex Digital talks about automating task management from Gmail to Notion. There is a lot of folks using Notion, but this automates it from Gmail to Notion using Zapier. And then finally, or a couple final articles, how to automate Gmail with Zapier, with filters, labels, and workflows. And that comes from AI Process Hub. And then, Eric, do you remember, have you used If This Then That?
Mm-hmm.
IFTTT. Yeah. I used to love it, you know? The problem was I was never really good at building IFTTs, but there were so many of these shortcuts, that's what if this and that essentially is. It's a service that and it's still available. You can still run applets in it and different things that will do steps. So one that I remember was if a picture showed up in my photos, I wanted that same picture to be copied over to Google Photos. So from my iPhone to Photos, and then a copy in Google Photos. So it was set up to do that, and it runs and does that automatically. It's just really, it was really very cool. And there
Good
are
time.
all these. What would you say, Eric?
It's a good time saver for those quick things, and so you don't forget.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, if this and that, we have how to email and iOS shortcuts or shortcuts that you can use. And then finally, Zapier automation for Google Workspace efficiency. So all of these links will be in the show notes for folks who want to take a look at this and do some extra reading. You'll find it in the video show notes. You'll also find it in the podcast version show notes. So I guess that kind of some ideas here. Start with native email rules before paying for a platform. So look at your Gmail, look at your Outlook, and look at if you're using Apple Mail, and look for rules to kind of do the basic sorting. Reach for Zapier or IFTTT when you need extra email to leave your inbox entirely and land into another system. So, like a task manager or some other shared spreadsheet. Filter before you automate so you don't get a lot of garbage in your automation. Vague triggers create noisy automations and wasted task credits if you're working on a system with task credits. And then pair automation with templated replies. So I use Text Expander. We've talked about this on the show before pretty extensively. Text Blaze is another one. Are you using or have you used Text Blaze? Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, I still use it a lot.
Yeah, I thought you had in terms of it. And you can use that for reoccurring requests instead of using an automated service to do it for you. You can build it right into these apps that run in the background, and that will key up whatever templates you want for whatever service that you want. And then audit your automations once a semester. Make sure things are still making sense for your workflow and what needs to happen. So, we're in this beginning of July. Tomorrow is the beginning of July, and headed into August. This might be a good time to take a serious look at your workflow and the process that you use. So I'm going to swing it to you, Eric, and see if you can talk a little bit about what your workflow is, particularly with when email comes in, where does it go?
I've been tinkering a lot with this lately. Um, my current role, I have a lot of repetitive tasks, things that come up but aren't necessarily urgent. So when students are admitted, I have to sign their letters. I have to e-sign their admissions letter. Um, if there's exemptions that need to be made for GRE scores or GPA scores, I have to e-sign those. It's good examples of those things that are real quick tasks, but I don't need to do in the moment. I filter and sort those, and then I do those once a week. Um, so I started with which platform works best, and I'm really liking Thunderbird at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, it's a clean interface. I'm still getting used to kind of tinkering with it. Um, and I like the rules and filtering so that I can move things around. And I actually start with who first, like where's it coming from? Um, and once I have that sorted based on whether or not that's usually a priority request or something I can get to, in a medium amount of time, or like you said earlier, if it's coming from the dean or higher, it's something I probably need to attend to pretty quickly. Then I start to sort by task. So, based on the types of tasks that I need to do. So my folder system now is kind of set into two parts. The filters kind of sort, or the rules will sort based on who it comes from and what it is. And then I'll sort based on task if I need to. Some of that happens automatically just based on who it's from. But it does take some time. And I think one thing I've noticed too to keep up on is your spam filtering and your rules there. I have a tendency just to delete stuff rather than adding it to my spam or marking it as spam. And, it takes half a second to delete it, but then I'm using that half a second every day. So, it's things like that that kind of add up in terms of time. I think when you're using multiple accounts in something like Thunderbird, one thing that doesn't always come up, where you're clicked, when you reply, changes your from or you're sent from. So let's just say I pulled up an email, I want to reply to it. It'll try to reply from a different account than the one it came in on. So it'll try and reply with my personal email instead of my work email. So I have to be a little bit more attentive to that. And I don't know if that's just the Thunderbird thing. So it's something to watch for. Just a quick horror story. My supervisor and I were both talking about doing this, and he's attempted it too. And his boss actually came to him and said, "Hey, you haven't replied to me for a while." And I came to him and said the same thing. I said, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. And some of these things need decisions." He's like, "Well, I don't know. You're both priority." And I guess the way he set it up, we were not. We were kind of getting spam filtered out because he was getting used to it. I think you do have to check on whether or not these things are functioning properly. Have a test run with your rules and make sure you're checking that you're getting things the way you're supposed to, because that's one of the risks you run, especially if you're setting it up without AI automation or AI tools. It is very manual. If anybody's really experienced with Excel, something like IFTTT makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
do the rules.
Yeah, I've got some questions for you about Thunderbird because I've looked at Thunderbird. Does it do Outlook?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I got it was because I could have both Outlook and my Gmail accounts all together.
Yeah. Okay. Then the other question: does it do like Mac Mail, iCloud?
That I don't know.
Yeah. Here's the problem I run into, and I will go back and check Thunderbird again. The problem I run into is I have to deal with Outlook and I have to deal with the university's guardrails around it. So I keep getting really good interest. I find these great Mac apps for like automation and things that would help with my mailbox. But as soon as I attempt to hook up my university mail with it, I get a warning that says this has to be approved by the admin for this app to be tied into Outlook. And my attempt is to better organize and filter through my Outlook emails so these apps do that. But then I'm like, okay, submit a request, and then I never hear back from administration. The way they solve the problem of me wanting to use an app they're not familiar with is they just don't respond to me at all, which is an IT approach to solving problems. But my problem still exists. I have tons of email that comes in, and many of them I swipe and delete because but a good portion of them I have to respond to. And some of them are complicated in terms of workflows because people are asking to post on the listserv, and I can't remember if they were in the database that I've set up and that they've gone through that process, or some advisors are just like, hey, we found this great new listserv. Go ahead and post your research requests on this without any process or procedures. So I have to do some complicated things within that. And I'm concerned, I've got 3 different accounts. I've got Gmail, I have iCloud for more of my personal stuff, and anything that I do in terms of purchasing goes through my iCloud account, and then my Kent email, which is Outlook based. So I've been trying to juggle this for 26 years now, trying to find a sweet spot. And the latest thing I'm going to try is this Zapier. Um, yeah, I one of the three legs on that stool always fails, no matter what software I use.
Well, and Thunderbird claims it'll handle all three. What rules it enforces in terms of organization, what they have set up, whether or not it'll allow you to add, but it will allow
Yeah.
uh, for Mac or iCloud accounts too.
I have been working with a piece of software that was suggested to me by one of my other tech friends called Mail Maven. And they really like that software. It does seem to handle all 3 accounts. I stay the hell away from Spark because their interface is just terribly confusing. And because the interface the way it is, I wind up losing emails or not being able to locate them through that system. And you can go to Classic Spark or you can go to, AI Spark, and neither of them seem to work for me. So, along this history, Spark was really hot. People still like it. I have not been able to use it. I think the bloom is off that rose, at least for me. The other thing is Notion, and people were setting up really complicated automation through Notion, and Notion was the sweetheart for a long time in terms of the kinds of things that people were looking at for automation. Turns out it's pretty complicated to set all that stuff up in Notion, and it's not as intuitive. Folks who are still into it are like, yeah, but there's tons of templates. You don't necessarily have to create these complicated templates because they're already out there. I don't want to work that hard. Notion is out there as a way of organizing. My latest girlfriend is going to be, I guess, Zapier for the next week or so to see if I can straighten out my workflow with that. I have Mail Maven as a paid account, and I'm not sure in terms of automation or filtering. I've never had luck with Outlook and setting up Outlook filters to move things into spam. It seems like either the spam people are getting better, or the issue is the Outlook doesn't work for me as a filter. I would love it if it would just, because I get a lot of spam from Brazil and India, that if I could just filter those out, because there's nobody in Brazil or India that needs to be contacting me anyways. I just have a really difficult time getting Outlook rules to work. And so, yeah, that's my story.
I haven't tried Spark in a long time, and I love the look of Spark. I feel like it's clean. I don't want I want the options to be heavy, but I like a cleaner look. My one complaint, if I were to say anything about, what's the other one I was just using? Thunderbird, is that it's very boxy. It's not, it's clean, but it's very boxy.
It looks like the old Eudora or Eudora Mill.
It does.
Monzilla,
but it functions better, I feel like, than a couple of the others. So, I think you almost have to prioritize what you want in terms of features and look. And I'm willing to sacrifice design for function.
Yeah, one of the things that happens with me with Spark is whenever I open it up, it says, "Here's 43 things you need to filter." You know, this is a newsletter. Do you want this newsletter? I mean, it. There's so many
Wrong.
decisions,
Yeah.
or it makes decisions for you and puts it in some place where my brain doesn't work that way. So, it's
And,
just, yeah,
and the pro pricing for that is pretty expensive. It's $200 a year.
yeah.
Um, Mail Maven is 75. It's not terrible, and Thunderbird is open source, so it's free.
Is Mail Maven PC compatible, from what you can tell, since you're looking at pricing?
Yeah, Mail Maven is. I actually can't tell from what they have up front. I'd have to tinker around in it a little bit more.
Well, I'm going to ask Dr. Google.
It does seem like their focus is on Apple Mail.
Yeah. No, Mail Maven is not compatible with Windows PC. So
Okay, yeah, so that's strictly
strictly Apple.
iOS. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a paid account with them, and then I guess it ended. So now I'm on the you can still use this account versus the paid account. And so I'm contemplating going ahead and paying for another year with Mail Maven. But maybe what I'll do is give it a rest and see if I have the patience and the time to get through setting up automations with Zapier, which was basically suggested by Claude to me that this might be the best option for what my concerns were.
Hmm.
So I'll play with that and see what happens. There is Trello, but that's more task management than it is managing mail and managing input. It manages workflow, but you have to get it from mail into workflow. And I think if you could set up a Notion template to be able to do that, if you wanted to do that, and I know Notion is cross-platform, you could. But it looks like, from what I can tell, and I'm going to go through some of the training today, tomorrow, that they have online to set up the account, but it looks like you can pull directly from mail in. One of the things I think I saw was the problem with it is it will remove the mail from whatever mail you have client that you have. So it doesn't necessarily mirror it. I'll have to check into that because if that's the case, I won't be using it for that reason.
Yeah, that seems a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that's what I've got. The kind of frustration keeps going on for me, probably until the moment I retire, and after I retire, and I'm still going to be tied to Outlook. So what the hell? What am I going to do?
Yeah, that's
Stop?
tough. I mean, and what they don't want you to do is auto forward, right? That used to be the
Yeah.
easy fix.
Well, I can get my Outlook account on certain mail clients like Mail Maven. I suspect I can get it also through Zapier.
Mhm.
I don't know. Mondays had some setups too, but I think again that's mainly Kanban, Gantt charts, and project management. So I don't know if any of our listeners who listen to this have a suggested solution for me. Just email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. That's why I have to have a Gmail account. It's for things like that. Multiple Gmail accounts, but the podtalknetwork@gmail.com if you have some questions or suggestions. Do you have anything more, Eric, or is this a wrap?
I think we're pretty good. There's definitely tools out there to test. I think I'd leave listeners with the thought that start simple first. Create a couple of rules, manage a couple of workflows, get used to it.
Mhm.
It does save you a lot of time, but it's something that you also have to pay attention to.
Yeah, and for me, this whole thing is changing because for a while there, I was program coordinating, and then I stopped program coordinating and the filtering. That's when I really realized, hey, first of all, I'm getting every email that's related to the program at my Kent email address, even people who are emailing just wanting to find out about the program. And so um, when it was passed on to me to another person, I said, you need to establish an email that's a generic email, have Kent create it for you. That is the thing that you use on all your correspondence. And that is the front facing email for the program that will send it to a particular email box and not have it coexist with the rest of your workflow. And she did that. Then, of course, I forwarded stuff to her personal email or her Kent email account by mistake because I forgot. We have this. This is where it's supposed to go, and I forgot about it. And she emailed me back and said, "Please send it to the generic program email when it's stuff like this." So, but that's all changing. We have some change in administration and change in program coordination. And those parts will be divvied up. So I'm wondering what part am I going to get and how can email automation, particularly with Outlook, help me sort through some of this stuff that's a separate workflow and how that is. So again, listeners or viewers, the podtalknetwork@gmail.com. If you have ideas, suggestions, or if you just want to get into my pity party about having to figure out email and workflow. Eric, you got anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Well, again, email us at the podtalknetwork@gmail.com. Our website is thepodtalk.net. And you can also check out our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@tech-savvy-professor, all one string. And that'll take you to the channel that will let you see these wonderful videos and connect you with the podcast version of the show if you'd like to get to the podcast version. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and all major podcast platforms. Our bumper music is by Philip Gross Rast from the Free Music Archive. Everything you need to know is at thepodtalk.net. And check out other shows that we have like Vision Profiles, 15-Minute Bites, Fade to Chat, AI workflow, productivity workflow. They're all there at thepodtalk.net. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and thanks for joining us on the Tech Savvy Professor.